This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of the Liverpool Blood Red podcast. I am your host, Connor Dunn, and today I am joined by two fine gentlemen in the form of Dan Kay. Dan, how are you?
Very well, Connor, yourself?
I am very well, thank you.
Good.
And I'm also joined by Paul Gorst. Tall Paul, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Can't complain.
Good.
Cracking on.
Very pleased to hear it. Well, we shall crack straight on because Liverpool played Sheffield United last night. They won 2-0. Goals from Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane. And to be quite honest with you, they were absolutely dominant. Managed the game really well. Brilliantly played. First 20 minutes, they were superb. Turned it on when they needed to. Just a thoroughly professional, excellent performance. Paul Gorst, you were there reporting on it for the Echo. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought once Liverpool scored the early goal, it didn't really look like it was going to be anything other than a Liverpool win. Maybe in maybe 2 or 3 years ago, if Liverpool don't score early, the anxiety kind of filters through from the cop onto the pitch, and players start getting a little bit anxious and nervous, and that isn't really the case anymore with Liverpool. So if they don't score, they just continue playing and playing and playing. But for maybe a little bit of a rarity, Liverpool did score an early goal. And then from then on, it looked like it was going to be a Liverpool win. I thought Dean Henderson was fantastic in the Sheffield United goal. He made several really good saves in the first half. He was unlucky with Mane's one for the second. He can probably count himself unfortunate, but thought Liverpool played very well, considering this was the end of a really energy-sapping run. I think it was the 11th Liverpool fixture in 33 days, and I thought Captain Jurgen Henderson was magnificent, and when he was in the team, I don't think anyone else would have allowed their own standards to drop, because he just wouldn't have had any of it. He snapped into tackles throughout, he passed and he probed, and he really led by example. So I thought he was great. Good to see Salah and Mane on the score sheet. Almost a perfect evening for Liverpool, apart from Naby Keita's injury.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll come on to Naby Keita in a moment, but Dan, I want to speak about Jurgen Henderson first and foremost. You know, Liverpool have missed Fabinho. He's been out injured, and he's, arguably the best defensive midfielder in the world right now, and any team would miss him. But they've now kept 5 clean sheets in a row in the Premier League, something not seen since September 2007 under Rafa. And really, Jurgen Henderson has provided a masterclass in defensive midfielding and stepped up captain's performance every single time he needs to. It's been sensational, hasn't it?
He has, and it's a very interesting kind of aspect to his, to this next stage of his Liverpool career. I don't think I would probably be alone in thinking kind of like maybe this time last year you were starting to wonder how much of a future he maybe really had at Liverpool, because he'd never let the side down as such, but the evolution of the side, the evolution of Klopp's Liverpool had kind of reached to a certain point that there were clearly some of the biggest games of the season when he wasn't getting picked. Fabinho, in the latter part of 2018 and certainly by the early months of 2019, had absolutely nailed down that defensive midfield role. And Henderson then had this kind of like Indian summer, playing in a slightly more advanced role, and had a really strong end to the season with some big performances, big assists, big goals, and had kind of almost like reinvented himself as maybe a more attacking player. And I think that's maybe how we all of us saw the rest of his Liverpool career panning out. Then obviously Fabinho did his ankle ligaments against Napoli towards the end of November, and we don't really have anyone else that can play that role. So for Jordan to go back there in this position where, maybe it wasn't his best position, it did make you wonder, well, how is this going to work out for him? But in actual fact, he's absolutely thrived and flourished in it. I wouldn't say to the extent that Fabinho's going to struggle to get his place back, because I think when Fabinho is fit and ready, he will come back into the side, and that hopefully will unleash Henderson potentially to play a bit further forward. But I just think it shows what an outstanding footballer he is. I mean, I had a rather heated argument with a friend a couple of weeks ago after the World Club Championship, who was adamant that he's a water carrier, is the expression he used. And
best water carrier I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, listen, you talk about Darren
those
with
trophies
faint
can hold
praise.
a lot of water.
I seem to remember World Cup winning captain Didier Deschamps was referred to as a water carrier. So, I think there are worse labels you can have put on you. But I think the way that Jordan's been able to kind of fill in again in this deeper role, and just another example about what a great football brain he's got and how adaptable he is, the fact that at pretty much zero notice and with no experience of playing that role, he played at centre-back in the World Club Cup semi-final against Monterrey a couple of weeks ago, shows what an outstanding footballer he is, an outstanding player he is, and what an outstanding captain he's turned into for Liverpool. I think Gary Lineker tweeted after the game last night, he may well be possibly the most underrated player in Premier League history, and I think that's probably a fair shout. I mean, I think the reality is there'll be some Liverpool supporters who will never forgive him for not being Steven Gerrard and will always kind of damn him with faint praise because of that. But I think it's great to see that the skipper is now getting the kind of recognition I think a lot of Liverpool fans believe he deserves, not just from Liverpool supporters but from the wider footballing public as well.
Yeah, look, Gorsty, before we move on, and just a quick note, and if you go to watch Liverpool every week, you see what Henderson does off the ball, you see what he gives the team, you see what he does to players around him. Just a word on his character, just a word on his resilience, just a word on how he is as a player, just to lift everybody all the time in that squad.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I think that they're some of his best qualities, aren't they? And it was interesting to note in his programme notes yesterday, talking about Joe Gomez, and he says everyone's delighted for him to basically return to the kind of form that we all know he can show and play, because he hasn't had a particularly easy start to the season, an easy few months. But he says in his notes, Henderson, that it isn't all about playing well all the time and being the best talent. It's about perseverance, elite level football. And that basically sums up his own story at Liverpool, written off so many times by so many people, including Brendan Rodgers at the very beginning of his reign. He nearly sold him to the point where he's a European Cup winning captain, the Club World Cup winning captain, the skipper of the best football team in the world at the moment. So you can't really speak highly enough to his character and his, as he says himself yesterday, his own perseverance. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll just stick you there mentioning Joe Gomez because, much of the Liverpool clean sheets has been owed to the way he has stepped up, and again he was absolutely sensational against Sheffield United, wasn't he? Yeah,
he's timed his return to form superbly, really. I think Liverpool were really struggling, weren't they, in the Club World Cup when Van Dijk was ill, and obviously Lovren and Matip remain on the sidelines. He's just come back into the form at the exact right time for Jurgen Klopp, to the point where it really has eased the defensive crisis. You wouldn't know that Liverpool have only got 2 centre-backs fit at the moment. They've kept, I think they've only conceded 4 goals in the last, in that 11-game run. I think if you take away the Aston Villa game, which has obviously got a huge asterisk over it with the academy team that played that night. And Van Dijk, alongside Gomez, has been key to it. They've kind of struck up that understanding that they had at the beginning of last season when we all thought that Joe Gomez was blossoming into one of the best young centre-backs in European football. He's been excellent for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and he really has timed that return perfectly.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dan, at the start of last season, obviously, when Liverpool keeping all of those clean sheets and crazy defensive record, it was Gomez and Van Dijk in the heart of that defence who just looked superb. And now they've kind of, Gomez obviously suffered a bit of injury and it's been a bit chop and change, Van Dijk and his partner. But Gomez looks to be kind of nailing down that position once again. What is it, do you think, makes those two tick just so well?
They seem to get on really well, don't they? Both on the pitch and off the pitch. I noticed that they did one of those LFC TV bezies things a while back. So they're obviously good pals, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work. They're going to dovetail well on the pitch. I mean, there is a school of thought to say that you could dress up a bin bag in a red shirt and put him alongside Van Dijk and he'd look half decent. But I think Gomez is just a very promising young footballer. I always go back to those first half, less than half a dozen games he played under Brendan Rodgers and at the start of 2015-16 at left back, in what was a really kind of quite a dark time for Liverpool when the team was pretty much hopeless, and he was one of the kind of few shining lights at the start of that season. He's developed and evolved. Obviously, he's a great physical specimen. He's tall, he's quick, he's got a good physique. One thing that's really impressed me in the last, this recent batch of games is his willingness to bring the ball out of defence, his passing, particularly out to the flanks. Obviously, the Liverpool's fullbacks are such a fundamental part of our attacking armoury, and setting them up with the right kind of balls to allow them to charge forward down the wings. He really seems to have kind of taken the lead with that, maybe even almost more than what Van Dijk has. I just think they dovetail beautifully together. I think it was quite a quick learning curve in many ways for Gomez, because if I'm right in thinking, I think when he started alongside Henderson against Monterrey in the semi-final in Qatar, that was probably only maybe his 3rd or 4th game in this spell. I don't think he was in the team at the start of the month, and yet Monterrey, but particularly Flamengo, the final, who obviously a very, very good team, champions of South America. I thought he was outstanding that night. His reading of the game, his pace, his his defensive nous and his positional sense. I mean, listen, he's a young player. There's going to be occasions when he is going to get caught out. When you're playing at elite level,
naturally
against some of the top opponents Liverpool are, that's going to happen from time to time. But I think, like a lot of this Liverpool team now, he's got a real kind of mental resilience that if he does have a wobbly moment, he isn't going to just go to pieces and fall apart and his head falls off. They have this. Virtually every member of this team, and as we were saying about Jordan Henderson, there's no finer example of him. They seem to have this kind of tunnel vision that kind of they can absorb a setback, put it behind them, and crack straight on without letting it kind of infect every part of the game. And I think Joe's a prime example of that. And I think he's got a really, really big future ahead of him. He has had a few niggly injuries, and hopefully if he can stay clear of them and get a real run of games under his belt, Joel Matip and Dejan Lovren, who I think are both top-class central defenders and absolutely worthy members of the Liverpool squad, might find difficulties on their hands getting back in, because if him and Van Dijk are clicking together, then why would you break them up?
Yeah, exactly. It certainly is a cracking partnership in the back line. And those who listen to me host this regularly will know I love a seamless link. And those who have a cracking partnership in the head of the field are Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah.
Effortless.
Thank you very much. But no, it was great to see both of them get back on the score sheet last night. I want to ask you a two-part question, I think, Gorsty. How good is it for them to see them scoring, and how do they score with 4-5 defenders around them?
It's great to see them score because let's face it, they're Liverpool's chief goal threats at the moment, aren't they? Roberto Firmino brings a lot more to the side than just the amount of goals he scores. He actually still hasn't scored at Anfield this season. But Salah and Mane are, the two goal getters, aren't they, in this Liverpool team? Salah pipped Mane to it last season, to the Golden Boot, with 27-26, that penalty in Madrid being the one that got him over the line. And they've got a little personal duel going again, haven't they? I think they're up to around about 13 or 14.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's healthy competition. They obviously had that little bit of a lovers' tiff at Burnley earlier in the season, but that's all water under the bridge. They seem to know each other's game inside and out, and that pass for Mane yesterday from Salah was... Well, I don't know how
I
thought Salah didn't pass to him.
Well,
that was the narrative.
That's been put to bed, hasn't it, last night? It's a shame Henderson made the initial save, really, because that would have been a great way to finish off that move. But yeah, I mean, their goals will be crucial to Liverpool now, between now and the end of the season in every competition. So it's good to see them back on the score sheet and looking threatening pretty much with every attack.
So how do they score then? Just sheer utter talent.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Two world-class attackers at the peak of their powers. In terms of the African Football of the Year awards, it's always going to be them two alongside someone like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Those three shared the Golden Boot in the Premier League last season, didn't they? So you'd expect something similar again. Obviously, from the Ballon d'Or awards, those two are in the top 5, were they, this season? Yeah. So Liverpool are lucky to have both of them. They are both world-class attackers. So skillful, so quick. Both got great eye for goal, and it'd be interesting to see which one of them comes out on top.
Yeah, I only just wanted to mention that because there's just so many occasions where Sheffield United just had so many players around them, and just thinking, how are you even getting out of that? And I'm thinking, Salah's not that much bigger than me at 5'6". I pretend 5'6". I mean, I'll get away with it. But I mean, when you've got 3 or 4 6'4", 6'2" defenders around you, or strong, quick, it's just unbelievable, really. But anyway, we could talk about everyone in this Liverpool team all day, and I want to have a quick note on Trent Alexander-Arnold, Dan, because some of his passing last night was simply outrageous.
I mean, there's been a lot said in the last couple of weeks, hasn't there, particularly since that game at Leicester, that he's more than just a fullback, and in many ways he's becoming one of Liverpool's main playmakers. And he kind of alluded to it in his interview after the game, didn't he, when he basically...
Gary Neville, didn't he?
Well, it's that famous line, isn't it? No one wants to be a fullback or a Gary Neville. But I think that is changing. And
well, who wouldn't want to be a Trent Alexander-Arnold right now?
Well, his influence on Liverpool's team is becoming more and more significant, I think, with every passing game and every passing beat. When you consider he's only 21? Was he 22 now?
21.
21.
No, 21 is he still? He's 22.
He was 21 in October.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So and you think, with he's got vast experience already under his belt, 2 Champions League finals, probably I'd imagine knocking on 100 Premier League games, or wouldn't be too far off it now.
Yeah, around about, yeah.
But most importantly, and this, and Chris Wilder mentioned it in his interview after the game, the mentality of Liverpool comes from the top. And this desire, this motivation, this hunger to not be satisfied with being top of the league, to not be satisfied with being world champions, European champions, this constant thirst to improve and to be better. Jurgen Klopp and his management crew have set the tone, and it does seem to kind of drop, to go down every level of the club now. And that's what gives, me as a supporter great hope and great belief that not just there's every chance that Liverpool will fulfil the expectations that we've all got from them this season, but also that this is not the end point, that this is a young team that wants to continue being successful, to continue winning trophies, to continue pushing the boundaries of the football that they're playing. And Trent is a fine example of that. There's one clip that's gone kind of viral on social media from I think
check it out if you've not seen it.
It's unreal. Trent's in the right back position. So it would be first half Liverpool attacking the Annie Road end, and he's in like the corner of the Kemlin and the Kop, and he plays this crossfield pass to
left-footed
to
across Robertson,
but with his left foot, and it seems to kind of defy geometry to a certain degree. The way he cuts across the ball with kind of like a bit of fade on it, and Robbo almost kind of like lets it go behind him, but then just kind of like
runs around,
moves perfectly into his path for him to move up the left flank.
I just don't even know how you kick a football like that. And I do play from time to time.
Yeah, I'm not too badly either, Connor, I would say, having seen you in action. But this kid is, at 21, I think, already right up there in terms of the footballers that our great city has produced, and it's a privilege to watch him play. And realistically, hopefully, we've got 10 plus years more of it. So,
well, yeah. The point is, in this next decade, we will have major stars like Messi, Ronaldo. They're all going to be retiring, and the likes of Trent Alexander are going to be global superstars. They are going to be the players people are looking up to, the best players on the planet, and it's such an exciting time.
And the beauty part as well for Trent is that you kind of get the impression if Liverpool are competitive.
It would be.
Where's he going to go? Where's he going to want to go? He's
Absolutely.
not going to want to go to Barcelona or Real Madrid if Liverpool is still competing. So it's potentially very happy days ahead.
Certainly is. One thing that was a little bit negative for Liverpool last night, Paul Gorst, was Naby Keita. Injured in the warm-up, groin injury. Milner had to come in and did very well, of course, as he would. But it's just another setback for him, isn't it? It's so disappointing.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a Groundhog Day, isn't it, for Naby Keita? Play well, get injured, rehab, return. Play well, get injured, rehab, return. It's been the story of his Liverpool career for the past 18 months since he joined, really. But I think this is one of those injuries that Jurgen Klopp would have been absolutely furious about, because he bangs the drum time and time again for a reduction of fixtures around this period, and he's not alone. He's not the only manager to make the point. Steve Bruce made the exact same point earlier this week when his team played Leicester. Fabian Schär gets injured early into the second half, and they have to play the entire second half with 10 men because he's already made his subs, and it's basically
and
just
he made his subs because of injuries.
Exactly, yeah. It's a hamstring tweak because of the amount of games and the amount of pressure that these players have been asked to play. Harry Kane pulled up with a similar injury himself, didn't he? And I've got no doubt that this might be a similar thing for Naby Keita, even though we know he is prone to one or two niggles out of the jam-packed fixture schedules. Such a disappointment for him, disappointment for Liverpool at a time when he really was in form, wasn't he? He was having a great time of it across December. We'll wait and see how long he's going to be out for, but unfortunately he won't be involved against Everton this weekend, and he might struggle to feature against Spurs as well. Yeah,
it certainly is disappointing. And what is injury means for Liverpool, Dan, is because obviously with Shaqiri out, with Oxlade-Chamberlain out, and with Fabinho out, and you think that such well-stocked midfield, that engine room where there's so many players to play, is dwindling pretty quickly. And you think on the bench against Sheffield United, you had two senior outfield players in Origi and Lallana, alongside four youngsters, basically. Nat Phillips, they got back from Stuttgart, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones and Nico Williams. It's not a great situation for a team challenging for the Premier League to be in, is it? It's
not. But I mean, Jurgen Klopp made the point in his press conference earlier today that everyone's in the same boat to a certain degree, and the people running the game really have to sit down and take a long, hard look at things and think about what they're doing. We all love football. We all love having football matches on the telly. We all love having lots of football to go to over Christmas. But Klopp made the point himself about quality ahead of quantity, and there is a danger. And this isn't just him having a whinge because he's because of the top of the league and we've got a few injuries before a big FA Cup tie. As Gorst alluded to, there's a lot of managers in the same boat here. And I just think they have to, there have already been certain kind of acknowledgements that that it's an issue. This is the first, at the start of next month, the start of February, we have our first winter break, which is essentially, one set of fixtures played over 2 weekends. So at least you get a week off. So that is indicative that the powers that be know that there's an issue here. The League Cup has already made some steps by doing away with penalties before, doing away with replays and then doing away with extra time before penalties. I think that's a step in the right direction. And I think the FA Cup, this is maybe a slightly different topic because, for probably...
Well, what should we be coming on to in a couple of minutes' time? But you crack on.
sorry to jump the gun there. There's a lot been said about the FA Cup in recent years and how teams don't take it seriously. And for someone of my age who grew up in the 80s when the FA Cup was absolutely on a pedestal, you talk to the likes of Jan Molby. When he came to play play in England in the 80s, the FA Cup was seen as bigger than winning the league. It was seen as the FA Cup final was bigger than the European Cup final. So I'm of an era that will always revere the FA Cup. And I think if you want teams to start taking it seriously, then you've got to give them a chance to. Now, Klopp made the point that obviously we've come to the end of this so-called festive period, but there isn't exactly much of a break for Liverpool. And obviously there is the potential, if there's a draw on Sunday, of a replay. Now, much though I'm old enough to remember second and third replays and the certain charm that held, I just think those kind of days are gone. And I think I think the FA Cup needs to get rid of replays. Because unfortunately, until that, I think Chris Wilder said after the game he's going to make 11 changes before that. I think they're playing AFC Fylde, aren't they? Not a non-league team. Now, and I think I'm right in saying Sheffield United lost to a non-league team in Barnet at home last year. Now they got promoted to the Premier League, so in the big grander scheme of things, no one's going to criticise them too much for that. But I think if the FA Cup really care about the future of their competition, which is the oldest cup competition in the world, still revered right across the planet, then they need to just have a little bit of a think about what they're doing, because until it changes, you are going to see managers, some people will call it disrespecting the cup by naming lesser teams, but as Klopp put it in his press conference today, his primary duty of giving respect is to his players.
Yeah. And
when you put it like that, it's difficult to argue with.
Yeah, well, Gorsty, you were at Klopp's press conference, weren't you? And firstly, before we come on to, his really passionate pleas for player protection and, how it all stemmed from the fact they could be faced with a replay against Everton, he gave a few injury updates, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
I say updates.
It's basically the news is there is no news, essentially. I mean, he said it was probably a little bit too soon to make a call on Naby Keita. It's going to be no Joel Matip, no Fabinho, no Dejan Lovren. Obviously, Nathaniel Klein's still out. So Liverpool have got the injuries piling up. There's 5 players who would have reasonably have been in the frame to play tomorrow had they not been injured. So it's the injuries are piling up for Liverpool. We'll wait and see what happens. Matip now has been out since October. Really has been a long one for him. Dejan Lovren struggling with a hamstring injury. We know about Fabinho's ankle ligaments. Seen him at the game yesterday after the match walking freely on 2 feet, which is good news for him. So we'll wait and see how much further he's out from his initial 6 to 8 weeks, which was the beginning of December. But yeah, Liverpool are walking wounded at the moment.
Yeah, certainly are. And Klopp, I know you wanted to mention this about, Klopp went on for quite a long time, it's fair to say, about the fixture schedules, about the festive fixtures, about the protection for players, about what needs to happen. Maybe, as you said before this podcast, some fans will take that and be like, oh, Klopp's having a go, Klopp's having a whinge, Klopp's having a moan again. But it's actually a little bit more than that, isn't it? Yeah, well,
on Christmas Eve, Klopp made the point that teams having to play twice in 48 hours is a crime, and they were the words he used, and didn't affect his team. They were quite fortunate over the Christmas break that they had the extra day. But Wolves, ironically, the team who Liverpool were facing, had to play Manchester City and Liverpool within 48 hours, and that can't be right for the players' well-being, can it? And as we've already mentioned, there's been plenty of injuries already picked up across this busy period of fixtures. But I mean, we'll report it the way Klopp is saying it. But sometimes on social media, these huge accounts tweet it out as Klopp's having a moan to entice rival fans to share and shall we say, expand their reach. But basically, when Klopp says stuff like this, really, is everyone listening? We'll listen and we'll report it as it was intended, but people will just look to try and take the mickey a little bit and grow their social following. But I think Klopp needs to be listened to on this, because he's not the only one saying it. You've got Pep Guardiola saying the exact same thing. Steve Bruce has said something similar, and I'm pretty sure if you asked every Premier League manager, they would make a similar complaint. Klopp basically urged these football authorities to talk and basically speak to the people involved, the managers involved in clubs, and try and come to a solution that helps everyone, where players aren't being asked to perform at elite level against, like Wolves, against the two best teams in the world in Manchester City and Liverpool in 48 hours, because it can't be right for Wolves' ambitions, it can't be right for players' well-being, which is ultimately the first and foremost, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll come on to speak a little bit about Everton now, because they are Liverpool's next game. They are the FA Cup fixture that the Reds are faced with. It certainly presents a tricky challenge, and not one they'd be welcoming in the third round. The first round, they're in the FA Cup. I'll stick with you for this one, Gorsty, just for now, because you're in the press conference. I think Klopp has got a little bit of a headache around Minamino. He's brought him in. Do you give him his debut in the derby? It's going to be quite feisty. He never really would have played in English football before, and everyone will want to let them know they're there, as the old saying goes. But is his hand going to be forced a little bit? What do you think?
I think it will be, yeah. You kind of got asked the comparison with Virgil van Dijk, who come in 2 years ago, and his debut was against Everton, but Klopp made the point that he'd been injured with Southampton, he hadn't played a lot of football, and decided on the day that he was going to throw him in. Minamino's had about 3 or 4 training sessions now, so he's a little bit acclimatised, more than Van Dijk was 2 years ago. And I don't really think he's got too much of an option. I think if he looks to rotate and give, Mane and Salah the evening off, then who else is he going to pick? Because options are so stretched at the moment. So I think Minamino will be thrown into the deep end for his Liverpool debut, and hopefully he's got something in his locker to make himself an instant hero. Yeah,
we'll come on to a full team selection in a minute, Dan, but do you think Klopp has to pick Minamino for this game?
I don't really see that there's an awful lot of other alternatives to him. Bearing in mind, as you said before, the midfield engine room is probably the area where the majority of Liverpool's casualties lie at the minute. I think he didn't say in explicit terms, but I think it's clear that he is going to have to rotate the squad and use some of the less lights and put some of the kids in. Gorsty made the point as well. You're not just Minamino's had 3 or 4 training sessions with the club, but also, as opposed to Van Dijk 2 years ago, he's been playing regularly for Salzburg right up until Christmas, and he's actually had the benefit of a couple of weeks off. I think Klopp actually said he'd actually gone back to Japan for a short period of time.
Yeah, well, that's why he was able to complete his medical, because obviously there was no games in Austria.
Klopp said he was in good shape when he came over, isn't he?
So he should be in reasonable shape, while at the same time having had a reasonable amount of relatively recent football, but also having had a bit of rest in his legs. So, I understand the concern in terms of it's a derby match. It's going to be helter-skelter. As you say, Everton will not be shy in letting him know that they're there. But, there is a historical precedent of 2 years ago, so I fully expect to see him soaring at the Kop end with 4 minutes to go and nodding a Virgil van Dijk corner into the back of the net, hopefully.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll stick with you here, Dan. You mentioned it briefly there about Everton letting him know they're there. Ancelotti spoke in his press conference earlier today. The last time he was in the FA Cup, he won the competition. He has a lot of respect for this competition. And, he'll be looking at this as a chance to bring some silverware to Everton for the first time, that he can. What are you expecting from Everton?
I'm expecting pretty much a full-strength Everton squad, backed with 8,000 screaming Everton lunatics in the away end, to come and give it everything, because this, sometimes we can say, it's your cup final in a kind of slightly derogatory sense and whatever, but the reality is Liverpool are the best team in the world, runaway league leaders, but this is a very, very tricky match for us, because we've got obviously our heart set on winning the title with this lead that we've got and a scratch squad. Everton know that it's a perfect time in many ways to come to Anfield, because we're in this kind of stick or twist situation, and that kind of uncertainty is dangerous in a derby and dangerous in a cup tie. What also will be sticking in their heads is that there are numerous examples in Merseyside derby history of occasions when it's all set up for Everton, and for whatever reason the fates have conspired against them and they haven't managed to make it happen. But they're obviously on a crest of a wave over the last month or so, started by Duncan Ferguson, expanded on by Ancelotti with 2 good wins in his first 2 games, and then a relatively narrow defeat at Man City the other night. So I think they will come and have a go and be desperate to win. And obviously, if they take it back to a replay at Goodison, that's fine as far as they're concerned. It's no skin off their nose. Obviously, they'd rather win. Whereas, in some ways, that would be almost Liverpool's. Well, I think for some people that would be Liverpool's worst case scenario. Not for me. I mean, I love the FA Cup. I love a derby. I want Liverpool to go through. I want Liverpool to win the treble this year. So I would rather replay than see us get knocked out. But it's an absolutely fascinating kind of context and build up to the fixture, and it'll be really interesting to see not just the 2 11s that are named, but how the match itself actually pans out on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm sure that Ancelotti's probably mentioned to his players that he's the only manager to beat Klopp this year. They're obviously good friends off the pitch. There'll be no love lost on it. How do you kind of see the match panning out?
It's the perfect storm for Everton, isn't it? Liverpool, Everton haven't beaten Liverpool at Anfield for 21 years now. 18 games in total since they last won in October 2010. It's been absolutely miserable for Everton. 10 draws and 8 defeats in that time. But they'll never have come to Anfield in that time frame with more optimism, more excitement. Brand new manager at the helm, a world-class elite level manager. They're on a little bit of form coming into a game that Liverpool are going to rest so many players. They'll be licking their lips, to be honest, Everton fans coming across Stanley Park, all like thousands of them, as Dan says. It's going to be a difficult one. And Jurgen Klopp was asked actually in the press conference, does the fact that it's Everton influence you at all? And he said no. He said, how can it be? That wouldn't be sensible if it did. Which I can understand him saying, but Liverpool fans will be absolutely screaming, please Jurgen, don't throw this one in, we can't lose this one. with good reason. I mean, I made
so many records.
Yeah, I made the point, I think it was earlier this week on one of our pods, I think if you offered Liverpool fans victory and then give Everton the bye for the FA Cup, I think they'd take that. And with Dan, I don't think a replay would be the worst case scenario for Liverpool.
Absolutely.
Even if they were to tumble out in the replay, Liverpool fans just really want to keep alive that 21-year record. I'm led to believe.
Yeah, fair enough, and I totally understand the point, and it makes total sense, doesn't it? I guess we'll come on to pick a team now, because it's going to be a mighty interesting team selection from Klopp and a mighty interesting team selection for a derby at that. For me, in goal, I think it's got to be Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me what team I'd pick, just to keep alive that record, I'm picking Van Dijk and Gomez.
Your strongest possible 11.
Yeah. 6 days off until
pick
Tottenham.
a team that you think is going to turn out, I think.
I think it might be Nico Williams at right back.
Yeah.
I think it might be Gomez and Nat Phillips.
Yeah. And
the left back's a difficult one because there aren't too many midfielders, so you can't really throw Milner in there. So I think Robertson might start.
Okay. You in agreement with that back five?
Well, I've actually jotted down my little team here. I mean, I was thinking about the Rucci at left back.
It's a very inexperienced defence, though, isn't it?
I was only thinking about him, and I have actually gone.
I absolutely love Yas Larouci. Every time I speak about him on the pod, I rate him so highly. But
I even thought about Gomez at left back, but because that's where as I was going about where his initial Liverpool games came. But I don't think he's played there in quite a long time. Mm-hmm. So I've actually gone for Milner at left back, and I would actually play Van Dijk. Okay. Partly the kind of historical thing. It is literally 2 years to the day as well. It's January the 5th.
Was it really?
It was the Friday the 5th. Yeah. 2 years ago, Sunday the 5th this time.
Love an omen.
It worries me that Gomez and Phillips just might be a little bit too raw between the two of them. I'm not saying he had his pipe and slippers out yesterday, but there were times during that. I mean, I wasn't at the game. I was working in here and watching it live blogging from the screen. But there was a couple of times when Van Dijk seemed a bit bored against Sheffield United. He was going on his little foray.
When he went on the little
class.
run in the first half, he just turned into a number 10.
So I'm not saying that he basically hasn't got a sweat on in the last couple of days, so he deserves it, so he should play. But I just kind of think
that is how he plays, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is it wasn't the most intense game he's played of the season. Mm-hmm. So I think asking him to go again, and then obviously the knowledge that he's got 6 full days off before Tottenham away, and he's the captain, he's the figurehead. His presence in a derby, you know, in any sport, it's often talked about. What you want to do is do what you want to do what your opponents least want, and if they see his name off the team sheet, Everton, it's a huge lift for them. Whereas if they see 6'5" of him in the tunnel beforehand, it's like, all right, they've got a few kids out, but that big fella's still there at the back. So I just think psychologically seeing him out on the pitch is quite important.
Yeah, talk me over.
Talk you around.
I'll go with that, yeah.
Do you know what? I was going to stick with you, but I'll take Van Dijk in the back line all day. I think Robertson plays as well, to be honest with you. I think they're going to go with a bit of a stronger defence than maybe Klopp would have liked to have, but it just, Milner in that position, I think you're going to have to play him in midfield for me. But anyway, what would be your midfield three, assuming you're going 4-3-3, Paul Gorst?
Yeah, it's, I'm trying to find the spot for Curtis Jones. I don't know whether that's in midfield or on the front three. I think Milner will play. Henderson will probably want to play, but I think he expended so much energy last night. I think it's going to be difficult for him to put in a similar kind of performance against Everton. Yeah. Wijnaldum's the same though. I thought he was excellent again.
He's missed a few games lately, hasn't he? So
yeah, maybe we'll go with Wijnaldum, Milner, Lallana. Yeah. I mean, there's no one else, is there really? That would be
my three, to be honest.
I mean, initially I'd gone with a much more inexperienced one of Lallana, Curtis Jones and Minamino. But I think in the same way that I've swayed you over Van Dijk, you might have swayed me over Robertson. I was reading one or two reports last night, and they were saying that Robertson played really well against Sheffield United, but he looked a bit tired. I think maybe all our players have looked a bit tired, but there's another school of thought that says you feel less tired when you're winning.
Yeah.
And if he gets to play and win another derby game, and then again he's got 6 days to put his feet up before Tottenham. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for Milner, Lallana, Minamino.
Okay, I was going to play Minamino further up the pitch, to be honest.
Yeah,
he was going to be in my front three, but he's on the pitch for whatever happens.
Somewhere.
I think Origi plays definitely. I think Curtis Jones will probably be up on the left and Minamino will be up on the right.
Yeah, that'd be mine. I think there's a great opportunity for Curtis Jones, actually. Obviously, City centre-born, 18-year-old Scouser, making a little bit of a name for himself now in the first team. Go and do your stuff on the left against Everton.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he, more than anyone probably, because that's a relatively senior side that we've picked, and if that is the team, I think Jones will take the bit between his teeth and think, look, this is my chance to show that I can mix it with the big boys.
It's a strong spine, isn't it?
It'll be exciting to see.
Yeah.
I'm throwing Harvey Elliott in.
Instead of? You obviously you picked me in your midfield, haven't you?
Yeah, so I'm going Origi, Elliott and
Jones.
Curtis Jones, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Good to have a couple. Yeah, well, at least with Curtis Jones, and then we've got a Scouser in the team, which I think is important on Derby Day.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, it's certainly an interesting team selection upcoming from Klopp. Paul Gorst, give me your score prediction, please.
1-1.
Oh, there's not many listening to this who would like to hear that.
I'm going to go Liverpool 3, Everton 2.
Ooh. I am going to go Liverpool 2, Everton 1. Anyway, that concludes today's pod. Keep this in your mind. If Liverpool beat Tottenham in the next Premier League game, it will be the best top-flight start in history. And what a wonderful achievement that would be, along with all the other achievements that have been so far this season, and hopefully more to come. We will be back on Monday when we'll be discussing the Merseyside Derby, FA Cup third round, where we hopefully will be discussing Liverpool win. Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy yourselves and enjoy the derby. Thank you very much.